Well, there we go. I met some of y'all last night. I'm Bill Bowles. I am the new CEO at SmartMoving. Super excited to be here. So my career, I spent about 10 years at Verbo, part of Expedia, running their data and analytics. And so my team, I make the joke that we were the nerds, like we did all of our pricing analysis, all of our marketing attribution, all of our retention analytics, all of our data science. Like we're very operational, but very focused on making the business better. And so my history is all around, frankly, like data and analysis and storytelling. So I thought what I'd do today, you'll see in a minute, is to take a bunch of the data that we pull out of our system, as well as the surveys that a lot of you have filled out, and show you just some things that look interesting to me that I thought might be helpful to you guys and hopefully actionable. But I went from that for about 10 years to a couple other startups, and I joined SmartMoving in 2022. So I've been there about 3.5 years now. And we have an awesome team and what we think of as an awesome product. Like we love providing something that people might not love it every day, right? But you guys use it every day. It means a lot to your lives and a lot to your businesses, and we are really proud of it. So it's been super fun. Toby Thompson, who you all met, and our head of marketing, he's in the back. He's going to call it tomorrow. It was awesome. She told me Toby used to come to these events and he was a huge rock star. As you guys are going to see, I'm probably not going to live up to rock star, but I'm going to show you a lot of stuff that's hopefully cool and useful, and I'm really excited about it. So, real quick before I get into the data, I just wanted to put our mission up here. Like, this is what we show every new hire on day one. This is what we show at the start of every one of our all hands meetings. Like quick here, our business is to help movers, right? Like our business is to help you guys make more money, be profitable without giving away your lives. That is everything we want to do, is to help solve your challenges and give you more opportunities. Like our product doesn't exist unless we do that. And so I'm going to skip this part. I was going to have you guys talk to each other about your challenges and then compare it. This is good reading. I'm just going to show you. We did a big survey. You guys probably know we send out surveys all the time. But we sent out a huge survey, about 400 movers, and asked them what their top challenges are right now. This is what you'll see is disproportionately, people talked about lead generation, not getting enough leads, wanting higher quality leads, wanting to get more high quality leads, and then staffing and finding good movers, keeping them and retaining them. And so I thought, I got a lot of data here, right? On lead gen, what are movers doing differently, how are they pricing differently? And so that's where I'm going to talk most of today, is around lead gen, just some stats related that I thought might be useful. I got a little bit of the staffing, and I know, there we go. Mostly around like how people compensate their sales teams. Okay, so lead gen. This from the survey is kind of interesting. What this says is basically, we sent this again to about 400 movers. Call it 20% of you said, hey, I convert 31 to 40% of the jobs that come in here. There are opportunities like, yeah, I convert those into book jobs. About 20% say that, maybe another, call it 15% say I convert 41 to 50% of the opportunities I get. Almost 25% said they converted 50% of jobs they get, which I can consider excellent. If you combine these bottom three, right, you got 15, 5, another almost 5, right? You got almost 25 there that are converting 30% or less, which I would say is not as good if you look at the benchmarks. Because when I look at smart business data over years, right, this is the average conversion rate of the movers in our platform. Almost always between 35 and 36%. Every year, very little volatility. It's the average conversion rate. And so you're like, all right, that's pretty consistent. That's what where we should be. What I did here is each one of these data is a different moving company, right? And I tried to show this is how many leads they get in a year. And this is what they say this is what their actual conversion rate is of those leads. You see there, it's just a huge range of outcomes that people get, right? You get some people, I originally thought, hey, maybe the people that get lots of leads won't convert real well because they get so many, they got to turn more away. And if we get better, you get fewer. And that's not what you see at all. It's just there's almost no correlation at all between how many leads you get and what your conversion rate is. And so I started trying to comb through and say, okay, like what is correlated with conversion? What can I see? Who's doing better? And I had a thought that maybe bigger movers would do better, right? Like movers with more trucks, just thinking, hey, you got more trucks, you can say yes to more stuff, and maybe you want to fill up a truck at the last minute. Again, you kind of don't see it, right? Like There's a little bit, like if you average out these, they're a little better, so bigger movers convert a little bit better. But it's not really size of the company that says that you convert better leads. And so it's not size. And so I thought, okay, something here is weird, right? Because this is the actual revenue. And bigger movers do make a lot more money, right? If you've got 50 or more trucks, you're making $15 million a year. If you've got 20 or more trucks, you're making about $5 million. You can see, again, these are averages, you can see. So these big movers are making a lot more money, but they're not converting any better. I thought that was weird. So I was like, all right, let's see if it has anything to do with like efficiency. Like, so this is like revenue per truck. So what you see is movers with 1 or 2 trucks, they make a little over $250,000 in every truck. Really efficient with their trucks, right? They're using them a lot. They're making $250,000 in their trucks. After that, you make about $150,000 per truck. And I realize just adding a truck, it doesn't get you more revenue. That's not what it is, right? It allows you to go service the leads you're probably having to say no to when you didn't have the trucks. But what it says is you're kind of like your first 2 trucks, almost certainly the most efficient, super hustling. After that, add a new truck, it looks like you can expect to add about $150,000 every year after that. But again, it's not efficiency. So these big movers aren't bigger because they're more efficient. They're not bigger because they convert better. So, okay, why are these bigger movers doing so much better? This is not blindingly, it's not a huge insight. They get a lot more leads. Look at that. Like I was shocked by how many more leads the big movers are getting. And so I was like, okay, you can see it's almost 6x the number of leads if you have 11 trucks versus 51 trucks. What are they doing different? What are the big movers differently to get so many more leads? This is always what our customers tell us. I want to get more leads. So I'm just trying to dig down from here to say, what are the big movers doing differently because they are getting so many more leads? They're not spending more as a percentage of their revenue. That's what this blue line is, right? So they're basically spending the same percentage of their revenue. Everybody's spending, call it 6 to 8% of their revenue on marketing. It's very similar. I've seen like Brock's presentations. He has lots of recommended ranges. Everybody's spending about the same percentage. But you take that percentage on bigger dollars of revenue, is a lot more dollars. So they are spending a lot more dollars, right? You can see like the spend here is much, much larger, right? So if I've got $10 million of revenue, I'm spending almost $1 million a year on marketing. Versus down here, $1 million, I'm spending $100,000. So 10x, right? The amount of money that they're spending on marketing. So they are spending more on marketing, for sure. They're also doing it differently. And so it took me a really long time to figure out how to show this, and I know it's confusing, so I'm going to have to explain it for a second. What I tried to do is to say, what are these different size companies do more or less than the average company? So what this means, if you say I have less than 250,000 in revenue in this row, it says I'm 5% less likely to get leads from affiliates and partners. I'm 1% less likely to get from community events, 3% less likely to get from direct mail. And so these small movers, way more likely to use moving lead providers, your Angies, right? And to use Google Ads. They're getting their list from very competitive sources. I'm going to show how that impacts pricing too in a second. But that's basically where the smaller movers are getting their leads from, they're very competitive places, right? Very unlikely to get from repeat referral. Not super surprising. You're a smaller business. You don't have a whole lot of repeat referral, and way less on affiliate. The big movers, though, do way more on affiliate, way more in social media. So Austin, I think you're right there, what you're doing there, and way more in other, which I'm guessing is a bunch of diversified tactics, tests, stuff that people are trying, right? And they're way less likely to be getting stuff in Google Ads. There's a brand advantage to that, right? The bigger movers are using their brand. They don't have to go spend on very expensive platforms that are going to be priced, like super price competitive. Question?
Yeah, does that mean they're spending getting more inefficient?
It's not really inefficient, right? They're doing it differently. So I'm gonna go back to it, right? Like they're still spending the same percentage of revenue, and they're still driving as much revenue or more revenue than anyone else. They're just doing it differently. I think it shows up in price though, more than marketing efficiency. I'll show that in a second. And then I thought this was interesting too. This was like, we just asked people in our survey, like, do you have a referral or affiliate program? Big movers, way more likely, you can see way more likely to have some sort of referral program, whether it's with designers, whether it's lots of real estate agents you can form a referral partnership with, or just a refer a friend program, way more likely. So if you don't have one of those today, I would find a bigger mover and ask them how they did it and sort of try to set more of those things up. Because that does look very correlated to finding what look like better leads, or at least leads that you can monetize better on the price side. And then here's my shameless plug. I'm the head of SmartMoving. I'm on stage, y'all are sweating me, yell at me, sell some stuff real quick. Big movers are also way more likely to adopt our product. So this is our online reputation management product. This is our smart marketing product. There's a couple of you I know have tried. Bigger movers are using this way more. Cause and effect here can be kind of weird. Like they don't necessarily adopt our products and then get more leads because of it. Sometimes they get more leads and our products help them manage it. But sometimes it's both, and that's the beauty for us. The other thing that everyone knows is correlated to conversion rate is response time. These are not actually SmartMoving stats. I just pulled these off the internet, right? But there's so much correlated between how fast you respond and how well you convert a lead. Like this says you're 100x more likely to connect, you're 21x more likely to book. You see the same thing here. Conversion rate is so correlated with how quickly you respond. And most studies say there's not really a limit to it. And so I wanted to look and see what does our data say. Do we see the same thing when I look at SmartMoving's data to see if that's true? So we asked in our survey, like, how quickly do you respond? And about a third of people said that they respond to a lead within 5 minutes. About a third, right? But these together, about 2/3 say that they respond within 30 minutes, which means a third of people are taking more than 30 minutes to get back to a lead. And that, our data says, is really bad for their conversion rate. And so what we looked at is, here's people that said I convert fewer than 20% of our leads, right? So I'm really not doing well with my leads. I'm converting less than 20% of them. Only 15% of those said that they took like the 30 minutes or less to respond. Almost 30% of those said they took over 30 minutes to respond. And so basically what happens is if you're not responding in 30 minutes, you're probably just getting a lot of 0% conversions, right? So you got a lot of leads coming in that are gone before you can actually respond to them. So you got to respond faster to avoid those really bad buckets of conversion. And again, my shameless plug here a little bit. SmartMoving customers are way more likely to respond within 5 minutes because we've got a lot of tools there for you to help you, right? So like 45% of SmartMoving's customers say I respond within 5 minutes versus less than 25% of the people we surveyed that were not SmartMoving customers. A lot of that's because we got tools like Smart Scout. I don't know how many of you guys, does anybody out here use our Smart Scout tool? Yeah, we got a couple. Like you can use, like we can make it flexible. You can use it to respond on nights and weekends. You can use it basically only for overflow leads that you don't answer in a certain amount of time period. But it is our AI sales agent that sounds not just like a human, very much like a human, and can answer your leads, and it integrates directly with SmartMoving. It doesn't actually book the job for you, like we're not going to do that, but it basically gets the lead right in with SmartMoving so you can action really quick and it answers the call really fast. And so anyone that struggles nights and weekends wants to say, hey, I'm open 24/7 because that helps you on Google, this is a great tool for you. Price. So I thought this was really interesting. When we surveyed everybody, it said, okay, how many of you plan to increase prices next year, right? About 2/3 said that they're going to increase prices next year. 37% not. And then we asked, by how much are you going to increase price? Most people, not surprising, somewhere between 1% and 10%. Like very few doing these big price increases out here, right? But about 1% and 10%. So I was like, okay, let's look and see who should be raising prices and what that means, right? So what I did here was I looked at like the average price based on how many trucks you have. So this is customers with no trucks, customers with 1 to 2 trucks. This is all rented, by the way. 1 to 2 trucks, 3 to 5, you can see. And you can see big movers are just charging more. This line's like super upward slope. And I was like, all right, well, maybe that's just because they do more long distance jobs, they do bigger jobs. But it's not. Up here I isolated down just local moves. Big movers are still charging more, which means like for the smaller movers, it probably does make sense to do your price change, probably a bigger one. But there's other stuff that goes into that, right? Like again, the cause and effect isn't perfect. And so what I wanted to do is look, so again, this is another one of my archetypes of what are big movers doing differently that's letting them charge more. And it's really not, I thought it would be like maybe they're providing packing, maybe they're doing junk removal, maybe they're doing cleaning. It's kind of not. Like these are sort of all over the place. There's no consistency here. Some of these groups are doing more or less, but like there's nothing consistent until you get here in storage. Big movers are way more likely to make money on storage, right? And then they're way more likely in general to be doing, let's call it like bigger jobs, more expensive jobs around corporate, FF&E, designer support. Like bigger movers are doing those things way more. And that's why they're able to charge more. That's why their average job is more. The other thing is they're doing more selling valuation on insurance, right? And so you can see like small movers way less likely to sell valuation or insurance. Big movers, almost all of them, right? Over 90%, right? And so again, I think Austin mentioned that earlier, but if you're not selling valuation, you're missing the opportunity for that. And then this is one of my last data pieces, right? Like this is a little bit of a non sequitur. I admitted to that. You said, hey, how many of you were on plan, above plan, behind plan this year? If you're behind plan, like almost 50% of non-SmartMoving customers said they were behind plan last year. SmartMoving customers were way more likely to say they were on or above plan. And again, I don't think that's coincidental. We're giving our customers visibility into the data like this. We're helping them respond faster. We're helping them offer more product. But they have an insurance integration where if you want to offer someone insurance instead of valuation, we have that for you too. And so I don't think those are coincidental. All right, and then the last team, sales team, commission, and comp. I can't wait to see what people think about this. So we surveyed everybody and just asked what sort of commission you paid your sales reps, right? So 16% of people were basically given no commission on a deal sold. The biggest group of people was paying a 3 to 5% commission. 22 people, 6 to 8. You can see the commission rate that people were paying their sales reps on average, right? It was like, okay, like what does that mean in terms of total comp? I don't have visibility into the salary that you guys pay your customers. We didn't ask that in the survey. So I just sort of Googled around, right? And what you see is like it varies hugely, which makes sense. If you're not going to pay the same salary to someone in New York as you are to someone in Wyoming, it's always going to be different. But it was a huge range. And so I basically tried to take this range around based on total comp, what you see on salary here, 57 to 97, and think, okay, if I know the average commission rate, I know the average salary rate, how much does the salesperson need to book to be profitable? Because that's the question we get a lot. So here's what I did here. This is you guys didn't think you'd have to nerd out this much after the last two presentations. So the average move in our system, just under $1,500, right? And I said, hey, like, what's your gross margin before the salesperson's commission? About 40%. What are your overhead costs, percentage of sale? About 40%. What's your net profit margin? About 20%. That's going to differ for everybody. Y'all, if y'all want the spreadsheet or whatever I did, or you can do this and customize this to what you do. But that's about right. You know, like 20% on average, I'm going to be close to the average move margin before the sales commission gets paid. So that equates on a $1,500 move to say, hey, I'm going to make about $300 on my move, right? That's what I'm going to net out of this. And then I gave a huge range here to say, hey, what if I paid a $30,000 salary and 5% commission out to the $60,000 salary and an 8% commission? This would be a very highly paid because that person's making $100,000 a year based on the volume I've got here. This one's making only 40. So small to large. We could go higher if you wanted to. But it's just trying to say, okay, given that, if this person makes an 8% commission, I'll use this one. They're making an 8% commission on that $1,485 after their commission rather than $297 per move. You're actually making $178 per move plus the commission. So that sales rep, to be break even for you, has got to sell 337 jobs. They got to book 500,000 jobs for you to be profitable. For low end, this guy's only got to book 135 jobs, only got to generate about 200,000 in revenue. Because what we did is we surveyed our moves and said, what are you paying? Like, what are you paying your sales reps? Or sorry, how much are your sales reps booking? So like my math here kind of says the average rep probably needs to book, let's call it 300 grand in a year on average to be profitable. Everybody's going to be different here, right? But if you're not booking 300 grand, you're probably not going to be profitable unless you're paying them very little. And so this is how much the average rep was booking. And so like this group of people, call it about 20%, sales reps are generating 100 grand or less. It'd be really hard for those reps to be profitable, right? This group of reps is somewhere between 100,000 and 500,000. That's right in the area where it depends. The low end, probably not. The high end, probably yes. And if your reps are out here generating over 500,000 a year, you're almost definitely going to be profitable with that unless you're paying in time. And so that's like the information I have. That's just what I was trying to think, like, how do you find your best people that you guys talk to? Because I know it's not just sales reps, but have everybody talk through, like, how do you find your best people? How do you keep your best people? And what does your culture do to help keep those people? Because that's the other big part about keeping your really good sales reps. It's not just about paying them, it's building a culture that they can advance into. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about, leadership transitions. And again, I know this is probably a little weird in that we're talking about software companies' leadership transition, but I know so many moving owners want to get themselves out of the middle of having to do everything. Or want to transition and say, you know, I've run this business for the last 20 years, it's been successful, I want to transition to my son, I want to transition to my daughter. How do you do that? How do you get a success with this? I think Toby and I'm not saying we did it perfectly, but we've done a pretty good job. Like, we planned for this well ahead of time. I'm going to show you some of the things and like lessons that we learned that hopefully are helpful. But I thought our business, we just had our best year. Anna Ty's guy, she talks a lot and I think this is right. Like, don't let your business retire when you do. Like, our business could have fallen apart as of Toby because he was very much the center of everything we did. And so hopefully there's some learnings here that you guys can replicate and take in terms of what we did. So one of the things we did, we started really early. Toby and I started almost a year talking. Toby had ran SmartMoving for 7 years, 80 hours a week, constantly working. He was just ready not to be in the day-to-day anymore. Like, he still wanted to come to some conferences like this. He still wants to talk to customers, but he just doesn't want to run the day-to-day operations anymore. And so he handed to me probably a year ago all of our strategic planning, all of our operational, all of our weekly meetings. I got way more engaged in sales and marketing. So we started really early. It's part of it. You don't need to make the transition after you leave. It doesn't have to be a big bang. Like, he started handing off stuff really early to me so that by the time I moved into the CEO role, I was already familiar with everything. Everybody was familiar with me, but I had a lot of credibility, and that helped too. Like, it wasn't a new thing I took over. He also handed over what I think was an exceptional team. Having a really good leadership team was so important to us. Like, Toby built our business. Like, he's like so many of you moving company owners. Like, he knew every part of the business. He was in every step of the business. He was involved in everything, right? So if customer success had a question, they went to Toby. Product and engineering had a question, they went to Toby. I had a question, I went to Toby. Everybody went to Toby. I can't do that. I didn't build the business from the bottom up. Like, I would be here. So I got to rely on the team to be much more collaborative. So as you start thinking about transitioning yourself out of the middle, you got to make sure everyone's not always coming to you for the answer, right? So if we were all coming to Toby every time for the answer after he left, once he's gone, there's no one to answer that question anymore. And so we started, again, a long time ago. We've got quarterly exec team meetings where we go, we spend 2 or 3 days together offsite, and we do all of our planning. We make sure our culture is, I put this in there, like, we help each other win with our cultural value. Like, we talk about this all the time. We're one team, we all work together, we all partner together. And that's a big part of what we do. Like, that's a big part of what made our transition successful, is that we are more collaborative. Because again, if everyone had been having to come to Toby every time, it wouldn't have worked. Last part, this is, again, I'm a huge UNC fan, so I'm using the UNC example. Like, I had to go, this is Hubert Davis. He's not the world's best coach. He was probably isn't the best example, but he went from a player to a coach. And that is definitely what I have to do. When I'm a coach, I got to make sure my team's asking the right questions so that they're solving the problem themselves as opposed to coming to me for the answer all the time. Like, again, if I can't be in the know, if I don't know the answer, because I haven't managed all their functions before, I have to have more of a coaching approach where I'm teaching them the process to make sure they're asking the right questions, figuring out the answers themselves, going and talking to other people themselves. So Toby and I have been working on that for a long time, right? Making sure our leadership team is asking the right questions, making sure the leadership team is solving problems on their own. Because if we're in the middle, it doesn't work. So for movers, again, that old don't let your business retire, redo. If you're in the middle of everything, every single problem that your team has to come to you to get an answer, when you're gone, there's going to be a huge gap there. So you've got to get them used to asking the right questions so they can answer the questions themselves. Okay, that's all I got. I'm happy to answer any questions about it.